Craig.
Craig.
Now recording.
That's going to be at the beginning of every episode, isn't it?
Yep, it is, because how can you not say it?
I know, right? All right, anyways, let's get right into it this time. No claps, no 5-second pause. Already complaints. I'm here today with the same people as the last two times. Isaac, Joe.
Hello.
What's up?
We're going to do like a... The plan is to do like a quick shot episode to do some smaller topics that can't fill a whole episode. I'll get us started with the melee disadvantage with ranged in melee. What do you think? What do you guys think about that? Why do you think it is that way? And what do you think?
I only fairly recently I watched a video and I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Oh, really?
So I watched a video of it was XP level 3.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, it was like, why do I even have disadvantage standing this close to you? And the other dude just reached out and swatted the hand weapon, like the hand crossbow away. He's like, oh.
Yeah, that's what makes sense to me. Like you're trying to shoot somebody with like a full bow, like you pull the string back.
Okay,
yeah,
a
right.
full bow.
They're gonna stop that.
That's the thing that I understand. If I had a bow and I draw it and release the bow, absolutely, right? But I think that the problem with the problem with like D&D combat is like you think of it in steps. It is my turn. No one else is doing anything. I'm doing this thing. But it's like it's only meant to be a few seconds. It's all very quick. And imagine, I don't know if either of you have been in a lot of fights. When you're in a fight, like the action that they take before you take your action can determine a lot what you can do, right? If I'm fighting someone and they throw a big, huge, I don't know how to fight punch all the way across, or they have a big weapon, let's say a sword. I've never sword fought anyone, but let's say they have a big sword and they do a big old cleave attack and they miss, they're not going to be able to swat your hand crossbow or your pistol out of the way. Could they potentially come back and hit your giant bow because you're holding it out at full arm's length? Yes. But I feel like if I had a hand crossbow or a pistol, which are in the game, really in the game, in the rules, I could easily shoot that without interruption before someone could block it, because there is no block action in D&D. And even if it was in D&D, in like a real fighting scenario, yes, you have an advantage up close at melee versus ranged, but you also aren't in the real world now, you aren't typically fighting someone with a giant sword in their hand, which really limits mobility.
I guess the big thing for me is just like, if you're, say you have a gun, you're fighting someone.
Uh-huh.
If they are standing right next to you,
Mm-hmm.
it is easier for them to like disarm you or try to knock your hand away than it would be if they are 10 feet from you.
That depends on the situation you're in, right? If I don't have the gun already in my hand, it is a lot easier to close that gap. You know what I mean? If we're both standing there and you go to draw a gun and I'm 10 feet away from you, I can close that gap and stop you very easily, right?
Well, yeah, but you're still closing that gap, right? You're
I'm
have
closing
to
the
be
gap.
in melee range to have that.
There's like a there's
I think that's where
honestly
it comes from.
honestly up to like 15 even 20 feet, I think. If someone goes to draw a gun, you can typically close that gap. But if a gun is already drawn and I'm 15 feet away or 10 feet away, I'm not even going to try. Right?
I
Now,
guess, but I think
in D&D, it's different because you don't die to one shot, right?
You get disadvantage if they're within 5 feet.
Yeah, but if you were at 5 feet away from me, which realistically is, more than arm's length for a lot of people, I could shoot you with a crossbow, hand crossbow, or a gun in that range easily before you could swat the gun out of my hand, I think. Or crossbow or hand crossbow.
I mean, ultimately,
now, reloading,
it's done for balance, right?
I think what could be a really cool thing to do to try is make it to where the person who's getting shot can use their reaction to give you disadvantage if you're using a ranged weapon.
Or like what I was thinking, which is if you have like a crossbow and you shoot it, you obviously aren't going to be able to reload and shoot them again. They could stop you from doing that. And there could be some kind of mechanic in with that. But I think flat across the board saying that, disadvantage in melee with ranged weapons makes sense in the sense of a bow, but doesn't make sense in the sense of anything that can already be preloaded.
I think the argument is that if you're fighting someone and they have a ranged weapon,
Mhm.
you are going to have a better time if you were right up on them than if you were trying to like run a parallel to them, right? So if you're okay, you're fighting me. I have a hand crossbow.
Yeah.
You have a melee weapon.
Okay.
You are 30 feet away from me.
Yeah.
Who has the advantage?
With a hand crossbow, you have the advantage until you pull the trigger. And then if you miss, GG, right?
A ranged weapon, right? So
yeah.
Obviously the ranged weapon has an advantage. Now, if you get up on top of me, then I immediately have a disadvantage. Because of reloading, because of your ability to like push my hand out of the way.
Does it not balance out just a little bit? Because like as you get closer to me with a hand crossbow, or pistol, something that already has something loaded, like a bolt or a bullet ready to go, the closer the gap is, the easier the shot is. And while within, like if you're stuffing me, like maybe that gets more difficult. But if you're 5 feet away from me, if you're in range of a sword, that's just an extremely easy shot.
Yeah, ultimately, like I said, it's done for balance. Because we just talked about all these like subset rules that you could add, and it starts to get very confusing, right? So for one of the like hallmarks of 5e is where you can make it to where you can bring in someone new and fairly easily get them into the game.
I guess what's the balance of it though? Like, what is the balance of making a ranged disadvantage within 5 feet? Where's the balance? What is that balance?
That person can move away from you and still hit you, and you have to chase them down.
Yeah, but
the balance is a melee person cannot hit you from further than their reach, whereas a ranged person can.
Yeah,
but giving them disadvantage in melee doesn't balance that out, right? Because they're already at a disadvantage by the fact that if you're a character who stays back and shoots a gun, you're considerably weaker than someone who should be in melee. So you're already, the balance is the risk.
Whoa. Why are you all at a disadvantage if you're a ranged character?
The only reason
you're a ranger.
The only reason you are is because that's the way you build a character. Like you build your things to be, well, I can afford to be hit a little easier because I'm never going to be in melee. Now that's not necessarily how an actual person would be.
Yeah. But it's also like they have less health and everything. It balances itself in that sense. There doesn't need to be the balance of disadvantage up close, because if I'm up close and I'm a ranger, I'm already at a disadvantage. I might be able to shoot you, but you're going to cleave the balls off of me next round because I'm a potato chip.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to be a potato chip. You can totally be a ranged barbarian, but it's just not very efficient and not very, it's not a good build, like a solid, I'm going to kill everything by myself build. You could totally do that. And then that what you're saying doesn't make any sense, right? But most people don't, because it's not efficient, and people like to build efficient builds.
But what about like ranged thrown weapons?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
So if I have a thrown weapon, I could throw a knife at you, but I could also just stab you with it.
Yeah, you could. Or you could throw it at disadvantage.
Yeah.
But a thrown weapon up close in that close a distance, that makes sense for disadvantage because of the mechanic of throwing that weapon.
To be fair, I don't think that firearms are actually, they're not.
They actually are. They're in the DM's
in the
guide.
DMG, like a one shot is one that you would have to reload after every shot. Now the Exandria ones that we're using in the Michael's campaign are
you sure there's not?
I'm pretty sure. I can double check.
Yeah, I can double check as well. DMG guns. firearms, explosives, and alien technology. Yeah, pistol, automatic, 2d6 piercing. Reload, 15 shots. Revolver, 2d8 piercing. Ammunition, reload, 6 shots.
What does it say about it though? Does it like, I think in there somewhere it's like these aren't in here, but you can. Here are some basic rules if you want to add them, right?
I'd have to read all of this.
We should have read this before we started.
True, I totally forgot about these rules, but they're in the game. Burst fire, ammunition, reload, properties, proficiencies. Up to you to decide whether proficiency with a firearm most characters use in world. Downtime. Character use training rules in the player's handbook, which actually I didn't know about. I should read into that too. Training rules. And to acquire proficiency, assuming that they... Okay, that's really cool. I just want to talk about that now. There's training rules in the player's handbook, but we can talk about that in a minute. I need to look into that. That's really cool. You can gain proficiency. I never even knew that in 5e. Maybe I should read the DMG. That's the only book I don't own. I don't own the DMG.
Those parts where the role-playing aspect comes in. You work, your character builds on things and trains. And
I feel like it's always
to get
really
better.
stiff.
Yeah,
That
you
kind of
can
stuff
learn new
doesn't really come up.
languages, and that's like your downtime activities.
Yeah.
A character can bind sticks of dynamite together so they explode at the same time. Each additional stick increases the damage by 1d6 to a maximum of 10d6. I could tape 10 sticks of dynamite together and throw it at you. That's better than
Find
a
it.
fireball, dude.
Find it.
What do you mean find it?
Find the dynamite.
It seems like there is no dynamite anywhere.
Yeah. Fragmentation grenades, smoke grenades, grenade launchers. Martial, here's like a musket pistol. Loading, as in you only get one shot. Musket rifle, two-handed. Martial range weapons.
Yeah. Okay, so if you look at this firearms guide in the DMG, there is the Renaissance item, which is just all of them have loading.
Yeah. Mhm.
There's the modern item, which includes automatic rifles, right? That's not going to make it into your D&D game. There's also futuristic. You can have a laser pistol. There's rules for that. But again,
Yeah.
that's not going to make it into your game either.
It might. You never know, dude. How bad is 3d6 radiant damage? That's not any different than a spell, right? You could
Well, what
totally...
I'm saying is the disadvantage rule is not made with these automatic weapons in mind.
I know it is. I know it's not. I know it's not made with these in mind. That's why I'm suggesting an addendum, maybe, to allow these kinds of weapons. Like, obviously, if I'm holding a big A long rifle, you'll be able to whack that out of the way without a lot of precision, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm just picturing if we're in combat and we're like that close, even when you say 5 feet, I'm picturing though that this guy's right on top of you.
all right, so
And that's why you're scrapping. You can't. It's all fast movements.
but one miss with a sword, especially with the like, it really
But
depends.
like to the point that you said earlier, there's little phases. So what I would assume, he would take his attack like you were like, he would take a big swing and then he'd be open to a shot. Well, he still gets his 6 seconds to recover, right? And like get ready for your next oncoming thing.
It all kind of happens at the same time, right?
Well, then that goes away from what you were saying earlier. We each get our own little 6-second pocket.
Sorry.
That's what you said.
Yeah, then I phrased that wrong. It's all happening at the same time. It's 6-second rounds, but like that's not how. I mean, that's how it works for balance reasons, but that's not how a fight works.
I would think if you know the guy has a gun,
yeah,
and you're 5 feet in front of him, you're still going to be taking swings, but you're going to take careful swings so you can always try to protect yourself from getting hit from that ranged weapon.
There's also like
that's why the disadvantage is there.
Yeah, and then there's also like campaign considerations as well. Like let's take the campaign where I am using a gun on Friday. Guns are still rare and people don't really know much about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would they be taking more careful swings to avoid me shooting them?
Maybe not on the first go, but after you shot one time,
yeah,
they know.
I'm advocating for like a patch to the rules for firearms and crossbows. Maybe a homebrew.
I don't think that.
I think there is, right? You take crossbow expert, right? Doesn't that give you to where you can shoot?
Yeah, does it?
Yeah.
Then maybe I should take crossbow expert. But it's not a crossbow, so it shouldn't even apply, right?
I think that it should just handheld weapon or handheld ranged should be the feat. That way it doesn't include bows. That way it will
Well, yeah.
include
I mean,
your pistol, I guess. But
they know it. You're not going to use it with a bow.
Well, I mean, crossbow expert, it is any ranged attack. You being within 5 feet of a hostile creature does not impose disadvantage on your ranged attack rolls.
Okay.
well, there you
then
go.
that
So
doesn't
they
make
have it
sense.
imposed in there.
I know,
There
but
you go.
that
There's your
doesn't make.
patch.
But that doesn't make sense, right? Like that. It makes perfect sense that I couldn't draw an arrow back and shoot you in range.
I don't know, man.
Melee
If
range.
I would think maybe you have spent time in close quarters combat using ranged weapon. That's what you train as. That's why you have the feat.
Yeah.
Like your guy has trained to be up close and personal and still shooting people with a bow or shooting with a hand crossbow or a gun. That's where the roleplay aspect comes in. You have to like look at that as this guy. This is what he does.
I think there could be like you could build it into a character like an acrobatics check that you could do to get rid of the disadvantage.
The only disadvantage I don't understand is if an enemy's prone, range attacks have disadvantage. I don't
get that either. Yeah, that's
unless
another-
he's like behind a rock or something and I can't see him.
Yeah, they're moving less when they're on the ground.
But they have less surface area.
The thought is that they have less surface area, but it should still be an easier shot. From shooting experience, if a target is like, let's say you have a target that's going straight away from you. So in terms of like movement, it's not going anywhere up or down. It's just kind of level, right? Sitting in one spot. I'm talking about shooting clays. So if you have a shotgun and you're shooting clays, and the clay is moving straight away from you, it's not jiggling side to side. It's not moving up and down, but it does have a small surface area. That's the easiest shot to make, right?
But
Same
there's a reason that's easier than hitting something on the ground, though.
But it's
So
not.
you try to hit
It's really-
something. No, listen to that. Okay, so you're
let's
shooting
hear it.
something that's like standing up or in the air, right? You can shoot, and anything that you shoot that's at that sort of that figure hits. But if it's laying down, if you shoot a little what I'm saying is, if it's standing up, you can shoot past it and still hit it, but you can't shoot past. Like your range is matters when you're shooting something that's laying on the ground.
But with something that's laying on the ground isn't moving that much. You know what I mean? If I had a target that was sitting on the ground and not moving, it'd be easy to hit.
Look at it this way, though: is it if someone is standing there, is it easier to hit them in the foot or in the chest?
If they're standing, it's easier to shoot them in the chest.
Exactly.
But if they're laying, but you still have to. Okay, if someone is laying down in front of me and I'm standing over them within 5 feet with a handgun or a crossbow, that's an easy shot, baby. That's not less surface area. That's the same surface area.
I agree with that, but I mean, like,
but even
what do you want from me there? That's
I think what could be a pretty good compromise is depending on range. Say you're within 20 feet, you don't have the disadvantage if they're prone. But if you're outside that,
I would
then
say
it makes the shot a little harder.
The hardest shot to make is if someone is moving very quickly horizontally across your field of view, right? That's the hardest one to make.
Yeah.
A big sweep. You have to sweep, track, shoot. That's the hardest shot to make with anything. And like something moving across the ground that's really small is extremely hard. The rabbits, like when you're shooting clays, they shoot those ones that roll across the ground. Those are hard. Those are hard to hit. But
Those are on the ground.
Things that are prone. Or
no. It's not prone. It's moving. It's moving rapidly. It's like moving.
Well, that's the thing.
10 miles an hour across the ground.
He might be prone, but he's still rolling around, moving, trying to dodge, trying to get out of the way of your gunshot or your arrow.
I don't know, man.
Well, but that's why I say I think if I'm within 15 feet, I don't think that's going to matter. It's going to be a pretty easy shot. But if I'm 40 feet out,
40 feet out,
that might make a pretty big difference.
Laying on the ground is harder to shoot than someone standing up. But if I'm within like range of being able to look down and see their whole body and not just a profile, that's an easier shot.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to it. I'm sure it's in there for balance because if you're 30 feet away, most things move 30 feet around. The range just wins. Like you can't not win because you just shoot, move back 30 feet, and then wait for them to come into your range again, right? So
But the balance,
can,
the
like,
balance in that sense
get
is
down.
if you're 30 feet away, let's say you're 35 feet away, and I'm melee, you're gonna shoot me, but I could close that gap in one round, and then you running away from me another 30 feet, like doesn't get you out of my range, and I get a chance to attack you.
And I mean that opportunity attack is also the cost of not having disadvantage, right?
Say what? Say that again?
Because then they're within 5 feet. So that's another way you can get rid of that disadvantage is just take the attack of opportunity. As opposed to, especially if you're not, especially if you have a party that can like sort of get in between you and your target.
Yeah.
I think that's a fine trade. Like you take your one attack
But
of
there's
opportunity.
There's
And
there's not a mechanic for like peeling, right?
There kind of is, because if someone closes on you
Uh-huh.
and you're like, I need to get away so I can keep firing my ranged weapon.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run 30 feet away. You get maybe hit, but at that point you got people that can come in between the two of you, and they either have to go around and take possibly multiple attacks of opportunity depending on how many people you have, or just fight those people.
Yeah, but when I say peeling, I mean like if I'm the ranged guy and you're in melee combat with me, there's no mechanic for like another melee guy to split that person away. You know what I'm saying? In martial
There are a
arts,
few.
we call that, like, my instructor calls that a peel, right? If you've got multiple people and you need assistance, there are techniques to pull someone away from someone else in a way that they don't have a chance, or
Yeah,
to defend
there
someone,
are
third party
mechanics for
defense.
that, but they are not very cost effective. You can grapple someone and move 5 feet. That pulls them off.
Yeah,
You can, if you Michael has that crusher feat, so when
that
he hits
kicks
someone
him
with a
back.
hammer, he
Yeah,
can move him 5 feet. That's another way you can do it. There are ways to do it. They're just generally not very cost effective, and it's better to just take the one attack of opportunity and get away.
yeah. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but like
It is a weird thing.
it's a hard one to. I don't think it's hard to balance. I think the balance is inherently built in with all the other mechanics that are in the game, and that being able to shoot up close isn't that big a deal. But that's just me.
There's multiple ways to get around it too. Like, I mean, you take sharpshooter, you don't have to worry about it, right? You always
crossbow
Crossbow
expert.
expert.
Yeah, crossbow expert. But I'm talking prone. If he's prone,
Oh yeah,
sharpshooter, you don't have to worry about it. There's feats and stuff to help.
yeah. If
Yeah,
you want
yeah,
to be really good at a thing, you can do it. Does sharpshooter do that? That's pretty good.
I think it does.
Attacking.
I'll look that up right now. Oh, you've already got it?
Yep. Before you make an attack roll and proficient. That does not do that. The attacking the sharpshooter makes sure you don't have disadvantage at long range, the long range of your weapon, and you ignore half cover and 3/4 cover, but it does
Right.
not do anything.
These rules could also be written into the weapon themselves. You know what I mean? Like a magic item almost, where it has
could
like
totally-
bop bop bop, no disadvantage within 5 feet, and then you don't even have to worry about characters. Like it's built into the actual item.
Yeah, you could totally do that.
But then you have to worry about getting it from your dungeon master.
You got to find it.
Yeah.
And on Fridays we're not getting that.
Yeah, oh yeah, I don't mean it as a magic item. I mean like some items, magic or not, have special rules that apply to them outside of the other rules. I think like the like chain weapons and stuff like that do, or like crossbows where they have the loading feature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could be like that, a feature of the weapon, not necessarily a magic weapon. Because
Yeah, and while like I do think that firing at someone prone within like 5 feet
or 10 feet even.
Should not
is
be double disadvantage for a ranged person.
I get twice the disadvantage because I'm within 5 feet and they're laying on the ground looking at me going, don't shoot me. I'm like, oh no, I don't know where to aim now.
But yeah, outside of that, I think that those the prone and the in 5 feet of melee, I think that those work okay. Just because ranged attacks are good. You
don't think
can
they're-
attack someone without the threat of being attacked.
Yeah, true, but you're also not like I said earlier, as a ranged character, you're also not wearing full plate. You know what I mean? Like
Could
being
be
that
though.
close is a disadvantage.
It's
I
not.
don't
It's
think
not like you
can
can't. You just generally aren't because
Could you
you're
wear
not
full
usually
plate?
getting hit.
I guess I'm thinking of a 3-5 thing. You can't plate and ranged and magic do not go together in 3-5. Like I don't think you actually you can, but you get massive penalties.
The same in
doing
5e, but like Rangers, if you wanted to wear heavy armor, you have to take the heavy armor feat.
Yeah,
you
you can
imagine-
still wear like a breastplate, I believe, or scale
Can
mail,
you-
one of those
Yeah.
two.
A breastplate, sure, but can you imagine a knight in full plate armor busting out a bow and like clink clink clanging and shooting accurately? You know,
Hey, if
No.
you wanted to, you could.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
I
you
couldn't. I couldn't do it wearing just like a leather vest, most likely.
can't. We're not talking about us, our personal skills. We're talking about our made up character skills. They're obviously going to be more proficient in whatever they do than me because I haven't trained my whole life to shoot a bow or whatever.
Well, I mean, you're a level 2 character. You haven't trained your whole life to shoot anything.
Yeah.
Actually, I wrote in my backstory that's all that stuff's in the backstory for that character, but a character ostensibly could be a level 5 character or a level 6, 7, or 8, 9, 10 character
Yeah,
that
sure.
shoots a pistol. At that point, if you're level 10, even if you're level 5, you're an experienced fighter. You're dishing damage.
Like I said, I totally agree that ranged people should not have double disadvantage because
Up
there's
close.
someone laying at their feet.
Yeah. That's super dumb to me.
But I think for the most part, those rules work out pretty well.
Is there a
And
parry
I think
mechanic
it's
in
it's
5e?
fine that it doesn't
Yeah.
clog it up.
I
There is a
guess.
parry
It
mechanic.
gives you a
It's-
+1 to AC.
It's let's see, yeah, it's mostly on monster stat blocks. I don't know where it is for players.
Could you?
You have to take it. There's a feat that lets you be able to parry it. I had it with
Martial
Shiro.
Adept,
Hmm.
which allows you to take 2 combat maneuvers and gain 1 superiority die.
Oh, like the fighter thing.
Yeah, like a battle master thing. They will have other superiority dice, blah blah blah. I got a D6. Okay, I guess that seems like
know.
that. I feel like anybody could parry. I feel like a parry's
mean,
not that like
Yeah,
advanced.
Blade
of a thing.
Master. If you take Blade Master, you can use as a reaction. You can take the
Parry
parry
master.
stance.
I don't know if this is on D&D Wiki. Parry master. Immediately after you successfully hit a creature with a dagger, rapier, or short sword, you gain bonus to your AC equal to your proficiency bonus until the end of your next turn.
Ooh, dang, dude, that's
also
that's
have-
a big bonus.
Yeah, you
Jeez.
also have advantage in
don't know if
opportunity
that's
attacks
real.
until the end of your next turn.
Yeah, I don't think that one's real.
Yeah, that's
The weapon used to hit must be in your offhand.
Yeah, I don't see. There's no parry master feat
Yeah, that's a
in
homebrew
the
thing.
official rules. Homebrew.
one of-
You are
that's one of
invulnerable
those,
to everything always.
Yeah. I am God now. I am
That's one of those
homebrewed.
Finn Shiro homebrews.
Yeah. Shit, dude. Listen, when I want to do a
Our
homebrew, I
characters
send-
were gods.
well, they were by the end. Everyone's a god by level 20. Listen, when I do homebrew stuff, I send it to the DM. I have had situations where like I go, oh man, this Unearthed Arcana thing looks really cool. And the DM goes, I don't know about that. Send it to me and I'll let you know. And I send it to them and they read it and they're like, yeah, that seems fine. And then we start playing and I'm like, I do this thing. And they're like, you can do that? And I'm like, did you even read it? Yes, I can do that. No, there's no check for it.
It's like that's the whole point. That's why I sent it to you because I was like,
That's
this
why-
might be a bit much.
I was like,
want you
this-
to double check for me.
Yeah, I read this and I thought, this sounds a little broken, but I'll let you decide. And then you read it and you go, yeah, sure, that's fine. And then I do it and you're like, oh, what? What do you mean you can do that thing? What did you read the document I sent you? Yeah, anyways, Yeah, so shooting in close combat, maybe there should be something changed about the prone within a distance. But you can homebrew that. That's not that hard. Homebrew that into existence.
Yeah.
I don't
I
even think
do.
that's
I
too
do think if
complicated.
they're laying down and you're within 5 feet, that's an easy. They're not swiping your gun away. That's an
That's
easy
like,
just pop.
yeah,
You
dude,
should get
that's
advantage if anything. on
I
that.
know. Just like laying down, full surface area. You're aiming down at. You don't even have to use the muscles in your arm to hold your arm up, dude. Just like pow, shoot them while they're down. Oh man. Anyways, I think that pretty much wraps up what I want to talk about that. I just want to get
Okay.
your guys' opinions on it. What else we got? Joe wanted to talk about alignment.
Ooh,
What
okay.
did you want to? Yeah, what did you want to talk about with alignment?
I wanted to discuss how to incorporate alignment into the game, or maybe not using alignment, trying to figure out something else to use. Because
What do
alignment
you
to
think,
me
Isaac?
is like real fishy. Like it's hard to.
Yeah. I'll give my opinion, but I feel like I feel like I talk a lot. So Isaac,
I feel
what's
like
your opinion
everything
on it?
should just be like every character's like, I'm chaotic neutral. I can do whatever I want.
I mean, that's what.
I have a fairly specific way that I run alignment now. But you go ahead. I'll tell you after you're done.
I think that alignment shouldn't be in the game. I think that like a character, like you can start evil or you can start good or you can say that you would generally do the right thing, right? Like it's in your it's a lot is in your backstory, and it depends on the campaign. Some campaigns alignments truly don't matter ever, but in a campaign where you have a story, I find that like in my last super long campaign, the one we played that just ended, my alignment changed pretty drastically throughout that campaign. What I started with was chaotic neutral, but there were times where I was probably leaning towards evil, and then there were other times where I was definitely leaning towards good, the greater good. You know what I mean? And that doesn't just that doesn't gel with me in like the course of a character. If a character is going to last that long, there's no way they're good the whole time or evil the whole time, most of the time. Now, maybe that's just me personally, but I feel like it ebbs and flows so much based on the situation that it's almost a non-issue. Like it's something I never have had come up past character creation when the DM goes, "What alignment are you?" And I have to say, neutral. You know what I mean? True neutral, chaotic neutral. I just want to be able to do what I want to do in the moment and not have my alignment like cloud that up. And I guess in the sense of like a paladin or a cleric, maybe the alignment matters a little more. Like if you're if you're a cleric of the goody two shoes god, you're not going to curb stomp someone's head and blow their head up, right? You're going to do something more aligned to what your god wants.
Those are the parts where I think alignment could be really cool. As if you're a cleric, a goody two shoes, and you're doing real shitty stuff, and your alignment starts to change. That's whenever it's like, okay, you can't use certain powers now because you're going against your god's will, or
like oath breaking.
That you could be an oathbreaker paladin, but that's like you go into that going, I broke the oath.
That's all story stuff, but I mean, like realistically though, I don't like alignment overall. What do you got to say about it, Isaac?
All right, so alignment doesn't come up that often. Outside of there are a few like magic items that require it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when you're doing like interplanar travel, sometimes it comes up.
Okay.
But the way that I decided to handle alignment is I would have my players give me the alignment that they start with, and then it's on the DM to sort of keep track. And if they start going one way or the other, the DM's like, and if it matters, the DM can tell you your alignment is starting to change. And
I could see
fluid.
that working.
It is fluid throughout the game. So if for instance you're attuned to a lawful good sword of some kind, and you start to do bad stuff, your DM can be like, your alignment is starting to change, and if you continue doing it, you no longer gain the magic effects of that sword.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you start to go back to it, your DM can be like, your alignment is returning.
Yeah,
and then you can reattune to the sword or whatever. That's
That-
how I've decided to do it.
I think that's a fine way to handle it. I just don't like when I'm pigeonholed into one alignment for a whole campaign.
Yeah, I didn't think that was good either. That's why
Yeah,
I decided.
Like you start out and you're like, I'm a good guy, and then a year into the campaign, you're like, what did that guy over there say to me? I'm gonna walk over to him and kill him. And
Yeah,
it's like
it's less
you're not-
interesting too, because you're like, no, your character wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
The end. No, your character can totally do that.
you could totally,
But
you could totally.
Your
snap
alignment's
from being
going to
good
change a
guy.
little bit.
Yeah. You're like tracking that. But that puts a lot of pressure on the DM, though, doesn't it? As like you're having to
It's
keep
not
track
that
of
bad,
everything.
really. It's
No?
it's just like, oh, you went and killed an innocent person. That's definitely a tick against you.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
yeah,
you
fair
helped
enough.
someone dying. That's a tick towards good.
I suppose.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's not gonna fluctuate so much that it's going to go from evil to good in the course of one session, right?
yeah.
It's going to be like, oh, you're starting to slip.
I don't know, dude. What like Arthas from World of Warcraft? He kind of went full evil in like one session.
That's true. That's true. And if that happens, then the DM can be like, you're evil now.
But
just blew up a school
Okay.
of orphans.
I do want to say,
You're evil now.
like the Arthas thing, since I brought it up already, I think that he was in the right in the beginning, and that he didn't go evil until he found the sword. Right?
Sure, you could make that argument.
I think that argument's totally valid because it's like health of the many over the few, I guess, kind of thing.
Yeah,
like
and also as far as you're putting more on the DM, it's not that bad because, like I said, it doesn't come up that often.
Yeah.
And when it does, your DM can sort of look at how you've been playing and be like, okay, this will work, or no, this won't work because whatever.
Yeah.
I think there could
Sorry,
be some
I
pretty
interrupted
cool
you.
ways to incorporate alignment.
There could be.
Like worldly wise, like if your characters are like doing kind of jacked up stuff and their alignment's starting to teeter more and more towards that evil side, maybe the world around it, of course you're adventurous, hopefully, people hear about the deeds you're doing. Maybe the world starts viewing you as like, these guys are a-holes that we don't like, it's harder to like get discounts on stuff or something because people have heard that you guys are jackasses.
You walk
Yeah,
into the local inn and they're like, "You're that dickhead."
Yeah, it can totally affect your reputation. It just depends
Yeah.
on how much the DM can keep track of, right?
How evil
Right.
are you being is the thing, right? I feel like there was a few times during that Friday campaign where I was like being a little more not blatantly evil, but definitely erring on the side of evil.
Yeah,
I started neutral.
Victor was good. He was like, I love helping people, and then those gnomes, man.
Yeah. And then it
Victor was just always trying to like make peace with the gnomes, and gnomes kept screwing him. And so
Yeah.
finally, he just picked
It's
one
like-
up and killed it.
It just wears you down, dude. They just wear you down. The world is ruining my goody two shoesness.
Alignment wise, that Friday campaign, my character went through just a
Yeah.
whirlwind of different
But that's what made
all over the place.
that's what makes it an interesting character almost. That like ability
Yeah,
if you're
it's the
just
story
stuck
arc.
all the time.
Character
Yeah,
arc.
it's a story arc. It's a story arc of your character. I do not. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't like the original alignment system. What you suggested sounds absolutely fantastic. If a DM is willing to put in that work to kind of keep track of the actions that you're taking, you know what I mean?
It's really not that hard. Like everyone sort of does it, right? Without even knowing about it. They're like, that's weird. That's a weird
Yeah.
thing for your character to do.
But yeah, it kind of happened on Monday night, right? Right at the end, when he's like,
Yeah.
I think we should not take the safe way. We should kill all these people. And then we're all like, what? Wait a minute. Do we want to do that? That's like a moral choice, right? Right there. Someone has to make that decision of like,
Mhm.
oh, well, I guess we are going to walk into this village that we don't really know anything about and murder all these people. Because they're not people, they're goblins. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing, right? Is that evil? That sounds objectively evil when I say it like that, right? When
Yep.
you word it as like, we have to do it to get through them, it kind of like your mind tricks you into thinking, it's okay that you kill all these people. But if you pull back from that and go, all right, guys, there's a village in the way. Here's our options. Go around a different way, or we walk to the fence and we kill them all because we just assume they're bad guys. And it's like, oh, okay.
You're kind of missing an option. You could just go up to him and talk to him.
Yeah, you just walk up and be like, hey guys, so what's up? And if they attack us then, it's like, let's fight them off, but maybe we don't have to kill all of them.
It's definitely less evil if you don't attack first.
Yeah. If you bust through the gate and you're like, what's up, dickheads? Pow, 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 pow. Just start like taking them out. You're the bad guy. Are we the baddies? You gotta like step back. Oh man. Remember that time everyone's like, you guys are doing such great work. And then you have to think to yourself, we did kill that village of people in the jungle that one time.
All them goblins. Like I have nightmares about it.
I have nightmares about it. Had to make a public announcement, guys. One time we totally could have walked around. We just decided to totally wipe out a native village in the middle of a jungle. One of our guys went, "Woo! Fireballs, pew pew, kill them all!" And like I just got swept up in the moment, dude. And I was like, I could punch some guys to death. Bah, bah, bah. I still see the goblin blood on my fist.
But that's right, because you punch people to death. It's even worse.
I'm in their face. I'm like grabbing their collar, just punching them to death. This is for your own good. This doesn't change my alignment at all. Throw them on the ground, curb stomp them. Oh man, yeah, alignment not great, but that's a good solution. I'm willing to leave that there. The morality of our choices affecting our alignment is definitely the way to handle that. I think, like, keep track of it. Have a little like one of those like a chart line with like segments where evil is on this side.
It would definitely be really cool to see consequences for doing stuff like that.
I find the consequences thing a little harder for D&D because I mean it depends on the setting, right? Like we've established pretty well in both the campaigns we're playing in right now that like long distance travel long distance communication isn't hard, but there is also settings where if I was on the other side of the world and I murdered a goblin village, word of that likely would never reach the other side of the world. And if it did reach the other side of the world, it wouldn't be like, here's an exact 100% accurate description of what this person's like. You know what I mean?
Right. But that's where you get cool stuff to come out. Like, it's like, we have to leave. Like, everybody hates us. Everybody's trying to kill us. We got to go to another continent because we're going to die.
Someone captured all my actions on their crystal ball camera or whatever.
Yeah.
And they like,
no, not the crystal ball camera.
That was a plot. I bring that up. That was a plot point in a show that I've watched before, where like they use their crystal ball camera and like magical Adobe Premiere to like edit the video to make them look like they were doing evil crap. And it's like, okay, like.
At first, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's what scrying is," but then you said magical Adobe Premiere.
There was like this whole plot in the show where like they have the magic crystal ball and they're like, "Look at all this shitty stuff the hero did," and everyone's like, "Yeah, they're a dickhead." But then later you find out that they used magic video editing powers to
actually. There are spells that you could do that with if your DM was a little bit like lenient with it.
You mean like memory manipulation spells, kind of things like that? Yeah, I guess you could, but could you affect enough people for it to matter?
Well, because you can. What is it called? There's a spell called. I don't remember what it's called. Let me see if I can find it.
Is there like a mass memory wipe kind of thing? Like in Harry Potter, when they rain down and it wipes everything. It's like Obliviate for everyone.
In my first campaign, I mean, they didn't. It wasn't a spell, but they did that, if you recall.
Yeah, did they?
Yeah,
I don't
for
recall.
the southern continent where the cat people were.
I thought that was like they chose to be hidden, not everyone.
They did, but everyone that was on the main continent, like it was not uncommon knowledge. They went around and erased it from everybody so that they wouldn't try to go back down there.
Okay, well, I don't remember that part. I remember there being a big scary storm and a big scary turtle, and every time someone got close to the scary storm and the turtle, they were like, "Yeah, dog, get out of here. This is a scary place." And everyone was like, "You right. I don't want to sail my boat into that big scary storm." You know what I'm saying?
that was the second part of it. Yeah,
I don't remember like the mind wiping. Let's see, memory spells.
There's one that like you can pull a memory or something. What is it called?
You look that up. I'm going to look up the training thing. Because this
Okay.
might answer a question that someone asked, that a friend of mine asked me pretty recently.
What was the
Downtime
question?
training. He had a character that had a wanted to be able to, I don't remember exactly, it's been a couple weeks ago, wanted to be able to throw a knife in a specific way. Like he had a throwing knife and he wanted to be able to like use that's what it was. Use 2-weapon fighting to attack with one weapon and then be able to throw a dagger with the other hand instead of another melee attack. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To me, that sounded reasonable. And now that there's like a downtime training thing, if you didn't write it into your backstory and be like, hey, DM, I think it'd be really sick if I was a dual weapon fighter that had a main hand sword, but also threw knives with the other hand. That would make sense. And now that I know that there's a training rules and mechanics, it makes a lot more sense. This is just a forum. Thank you. Let's see. Training.
That'd be a pretty awesome way to build a character.
Yeah, like I think that's.
You can kind of already do that with crossbow expert.
I don't think he means like in that sense. I think he means like dual weapon fighting does not have written in it the ability to like have the second attack be anything other than another melee attack. Like you're holding two swords.
Yeah, but I mean, the crossbow expert allows you to do that. You can if you attack with a main hand weapon, you can then shoot with your offhand hand crossbow.
But does it cover all ranged weapons or does it just cover?
I think it just covers. I don't remember what the exact.
I think
wording
at
is,
that
but
point, it's like you're gonna do less damage with a knife anyway, so just go ahead and be like, yeah, sure, you can do that.
Yeah. On range attack rolls, you ignore the quality of crossbows, which is efficient. When using an attack action with a one-handed weapon, you can use a bonus action to attack with a hand crossbow if you were holding. Yeah, it doesn't have anything about throwing knives, but I don't think that's out of scope, right? If you were like, yo, I've been training to throw this dagger at, if I'm fighting Jimbo and his brother Billy is 10 feet away from me to the right, could I, with dual weapon fighting, slash Jimbo and throw a knife at his dumbass brother Billy and get him too? You know what I mean?
I think that'd be a cool, like you train for it and you train for it and you train for it, and like you do on your downtime, you train for it. Once you hit level 4 and you get to choose ability score improvements or a feat, you go, I want to do this homebrew feat where it's crossbow expert, except it's for knives.
Yeah. You have D&D Beyond. You have all the books, right, Isaac? Can you look up the downtime activity?
Yeah.
Or can I look it up? Downtime training. Let's see. Laser pistol is the first result. Fantastic.
In my downtime, I want to train to be proficient with laser pistols.
I want to develop a laser pistol, my guy. Okay, a quick side note. This is my brain going off topic for a second. I was reading when we were talking about the pistols and ranged and the alien weapons. They had a pistol that was an alien that would like shot lasers. It was like a laser weapon and it did radiant damage. How cool of a character would it be that you're like a cleric who channels your radiant energy into like an inert object that shoots like a pistol or like a gun. And it does like radiant damage out the end as like a beam. Like it's a focusing device where like it focuses your radiant energy into like a rod that you can shoot. That'd be really cool. That's a cool character concept. Let's see. I'm just saying that to fill up time while I try to find this.
Did you say you mentioned something about crafting? I don't know if you wanted to talk about that too.
Oh yeah, crafting items that aren't in the book. Obviously there's dynamite in the DMG and I didn't know. But like in say our Friday campaign, streaming at twitch.tv/Nookrium, there are explosives, there are guns. My backstory is that I have been reactivated, Warforged. I've worked in a gun shop that develops guns, develops explosives, things like that. Could I then use crafting to say, hey, I developed a crossbow bolt that has a stick of dynamite on it, right? I shoot it, boom, it blows them up when it hits them.
Yeah.
crafting
it's up to your
crafting
DM,
odd
obviously.
things. Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
but
like that's I think that's a very cool thing to do. They do it in Critical Role. I don't know if I know you don't watch that, but they do
yeah,
that in Critical Role sometimes. Basically, it'd be like because it was mostly Taliesin would come to Matt and say, "I have an idea for a thing." He's like, "Okay." Matt reads over it. Okay, here's either this is we can't do this, or he balances it a bit, and then
yeah.
it's like, okay, go ahead and make a tinkering check, and then depending on depending on what he rolls, you say either yeah it works, no it doesn't, or put an asterisk by that, and I'll let you know what happens when you fire it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like an iteration over time kind of tinkering kind of thing.
Yeah. Which I
Because
think
like,
is very cool. I really like the idea of players being like, I have this idea for a thing that I think really fits into this world, and I'd
yeah,
like to try to make it whenever I have some downtime. And your
yeah,
team,
yeah, yeah.
hopefully, yeah, that's cool.
That's super cool. I think that that's a really cool thing. I've never had that happen in a campaign, and other times that I've tried to suggest it, it doesn't really work. Like they're like, nah. But it would be cool to, like, I based that character in that campaign off of a game that I really like, and there are some really cool stuff in that game that I think would fit really well into the setting, like the explosive crossbow bolts and like crossbow bolts that have poison in them, or crossbow bolts that make noise to distract enemies. You know what I mean? Where you
Mhm.
kind of shoot it off like to one side or the other, the person, and when it lands, it maybe has like a little fuse and makes like a noise or something that would distract people for better stealth checks or something like that.
Yeah.
That could be
Oh, I found
really
the spell I
cool.
was looking for.
Oh,
Awesome.
okay, yeah, let's hear it.
It's a cantrip called Encode Thoughts. You can pull a memory or an idea or message from your head and transform it into a tangible string of glowing energy, and then you can play it back. So you could totally do that. You could totally go to
Does that allow you to edit it?
your crystal. Well, if yeah, with modify memory, you totally could.
Because that sounds like the thing. I've talked about Harry Potter twice in these things. In Harry Potter, they can pull their memories out with the wands and like drop them into these
It's
special
almost
wells.
exactly like that.
It's that,
In
right?
fact, in the Encode Thoughts, if it says if you cast a spell while concentrating on a spell or an ability that allows you to read or manipulate the thoughts of others, such as detect thoughts or modify memory, you can transform the thoughts or memories you read, rather than your own, into a thought strand. So you can totally use your fantasy Adobe Premiere.
Yeah, to edit someone's memories. But could you do it on a large enough scale? That
Well,
sounds like it's a process.
You can pull it out and show it to people. So
I
you can
suppose.
modify it and then show it to however many people you want to show it to.
I guess, yeah. Like someone who doesn't know what magic is, and you're like, check out this memory I have, and you like pull it out and show them, they're gonna believe you.
Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah. I suppose that that's possible. Huh. You know what's the best thing about these podcasts so far? It's making me think about how to play the game differently than I usually do.
Yeah, for
It's giving me
sure.
ideas on how to like, how can I change up the way I play? How can I like, maybe I always viewed it when I was doing stuff that was outside the rules. I feel like I always viewed it as like, how far can I bend this rule before it breaks? Within, like, while still being able to like say, hey, I know this is a little jacked up, but technically, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I
playing within those boundaries.
I really enjoy bending the rules for the sake of story elements. I
Oh,
don't like I'm not as big a fan of bending the rules because they are broken if you rule them as written.
yeah. I do like that sometimes. I'm less and less, but like, I definitely lived in that space for a long time. That like, can I take this rules as written thing and absolutely destroy it? What do you think about? Oh my god, did I lose it because I was talking about something else for too long?
It happens
What
to me.
were we just talking about 1 second ago? We were talking about
Thoughts?
thoughts.
Harry Potter. And
Oh,
the
okay.
Strand Thoughts.
No. What do you think about like, um, when you attack someone? So like, you go. What are you gonna do? It's your turn. You can say, I'm gonna hit them. I'm gonna punch them. I'm gonna stab them. I'm gonna cast a firebolt. Right.
Okay.
Magic, it doesn't really apply to that much. You can't really cast magic in very many different ways, but you can attack people in a lot of different ways. And I remember a thing specifically. I was DMing, and I had this guy who was really, really into describing his attack. Right?
Mhm.
He does this. I'm going to run up and I'm going to tackle him with my shield. And I'm like, in my head, in my very logical mind, I'm going, yeah, dog, that's not in the game. So just make an attack. And we'll see what happens. But I think now I'm more leaning towards like, if someone can describe a way that they're doing something that makes it sound really cool, like I'm going to do this really cool thing, I want them to be able to make a check and see if it can not break the game, but achieve an effect that they're trying to achieve. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's like it's a lot easier to do when you have a very strong understanding of how all the rules work. Like if someone's like, I want to, because you get a new player that comes in, I want to knock him down with my shield and pin him to the ground. Okay, let's do a contested strength check, and if it loses, then you knock it down, and then with your next attack, you can totally try to like pin it, or grapple it while it's on the ground.
Yeah. But that's not something that could happen within one round, really. I guess if you have 2 attacks, you could.
With 2 attacks, you totally can do that.
With 2 attacks, you could totally do it. I think in that instance, we were like level 2, and he couldn't really do it. And I was like,
But that comes back to he doesn't know how to fight yet. He's still new, so.
I know that. I know he was really new, and I kept like having to be the bad guy and be like, that doesn't really work.
Yeah, I hate that feeling. But like the solution there is like, yeah, you go up to him and roll an athletics check, and then he rolls it and does well, and the other guy doesn't do as well.
Yeah.
You knock him down, but before you're able to pin him, he gets in his shots.
Yeah. Or I'm gonna bash him with my shield because that sounds awesome. It's like, all right, cool. That's an improvised weapon. So roll your attack. Okay, now do your D3 of damage.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh, well, I don't know that I really want to hit him with my shield if it's only doing D damage.
That's where I think you try to flare it up with your own flair and like be fun and role play that way.
Yeah.
That's where you just have to be like, okay, you know that he's still going to be using his weapon, but he's just saying, I'm flaring it up. I'm doing. That's like with your character. You're like, I always have to punch because I have these gauntlets. It's like,
yeah.
Just I'm more open to you just like flaring it up, man. To like, I want to do a spin kick and blah 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 and
yeah.
And what still about get also, your normal damage.
Yeah, like kicking and stuff like that, which would make. But I'm a boxer, and that makes sense. But what about like what about modifying magic items? This was a thing that I was thinking of Monday night. This last Monday popped in my head at the end. What about modifying magic items? Is there a ruling for that? You know the rules better than I do in 5e, honestly, even though you've been playing way less than me.
I think there are like a very hinting at rules for that. But we're actually doing that. Ray is doing that with one of the magical items, because his mentor was like an expert enchanter. He found that workshop, and now he is changing one of the magic items that you guys found to do something different.
So let's say like those swords we found last night, which are probably, I don't know if they're magical or not. I'm going to make you don't have to tell me, but I'm going to make the assumption that the sword is what did the psychic damage, right?
No, we actually talked about that during the session.
I totally missed that. For the sake of this discussion, let's say that it was the sword, right?
Okay.
You have a magic sword that the blade, when you hit someone with it, it does magical damage. It does like psychic damage or fire damage or whatever it is, right?
Okay.
Could I, in theory, like break that? Does breaking a magic item totally ruin it?
It depends on how you break it, right?
Okay. Could I could you do like cut the blade off at the hilt and do like a hidden blade, or could you weave that enchanted metal into another object to imbue that object with some of its power? As what is like what I'm getting at, I guess.
I say absolutely, but you have to spend a lot of downtime both becoming proficient at doing that and actually doing it. Or you can find a magic shop that has an enchanter and pay them to do it.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a matter of, well, how much gold do you have?
yeah. Well, yeah, the how much gold thing. But like if that sword, if we were fighting the guy who had the magic psychic sword and something happened and the sword broke into pieces, a lot of like small pieces, each of those pieces are imbued with a magical essence that have that effect at a smaller degree, could I then weave that material into, say, my gauntlets, so that my gauntlets did psychic damage? And I'm not talking specifically for that, but like overall, do you think that that's an achievable thing?
I think that if a magical item were to break, then the enchantment would be broken. That's not to say that you can't like redistribute it if that is your goal, but like if you're in a fight or
Not
like
in
a
a
god
fight, sorry.
shatters your weapon or whatever, then that's done.
Yeah,
But if you were to
okay,
take it somewhere, yeah, definitely. You could,
Yeah, I
you could totally do that.
yeah, I said that wrong. In a controlled fashion, could I break it, and then could a character ostensibly, or like break a magic weapon and then do that, is what I'm saying.
Yes, I think that is very cool.
I think that's very cool too. But it's just, I never even thought about doing it until very recently.
Yeah, I would love for you guys to do more downtime activity stuff, because it feels like an investment in the world when you guys do it.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, cool magic sword. That's probably why I missed it, because I was thinking about it instead of paying attention. I was like, sword that does magic damage, huh? Like it's got a blade. I have these gauntlets. If I put the sword in my gauntlets in some way, would they be able to do more damage? That'd be really awesome. Or change the damage type or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's probably why I didn't hear the explanation, because
like the wheels are turning.
My mind, like, as soon as I dart around a lot, but if I'm interested in a specific thing, I'm like, I must think about this now for a little while. And I totally missed things. My bad. It was the gift, not the sword. That was on me. But yeah, that sounds so awesome to be able to do stuff like that. Downtime activities that I never really liked the thought of downtime activities in the past, because a lot of the times they don't amount to anything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose if it was something that could affect what's happening in some way, that'd be kind of cool. Like, even if it wasn't a magic item, could a character put like tips, like they collect a bunch of swords from adventuring, right? And you cut a bunch of the little tips off and work that into your gauntlet so that when you punch people, it stabs them. You know what I mean? That kind of thing as well.
Yeah,
even non-magical modifications.
You could totally do that. It's at some point it has to become an issue of balance.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I can't be like,
but
check out my gauntlets that have 50 knives on them, and when I punch you, it does 25 d6 of damage. Because technically, each knife is its own individual stab. You know, these are my shark gauntlets, and when I punch you, they bite you too.
They have little sharks on for each knuckle.
Yeah, one little tiny shark on each knuckle. When I punch you, they take a little piece of your flesh out and you bleed damage.
But yes, absolutely, I want my players to at least run those things by me, because it lets me know that they're into it. They're trying to like do things that their character would do, which I think is cool. I think it's cool when you're like, my character wants to do something that isn't necessarily in the book, but I want to try to find a way to make it happen because my character really wants to do it.
That'd be cool. Okay. Yeah, I'll think about that. That's really awesome. But I think we're coming up on an hour here. If we have another topic to go, freaking sick. I'm more than willing to sit here and talk about it for a little while longer. But if we got nothing else, we can end this one in an hour as well.
I'm good to end. We got a bunch more topics that are ready to go that are longer topics for next week or the week after.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really want to talk about character creation.
We can talk about that next week.
Yeah,
that's a good next week one. All right, character creation next week. You heard it here. Oh wait, sorry.
Jules D&D schools. What's up?
Sorry, this episode will go live next week, and then the week after that will be character creation. Is how that's going to work.
There you go.
Don't get your hopes up. Anyways, thanks for listening. I suppose you'll hear us next Monday. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.